Shri Suresh Prabhu.
So the monsoon session of Parliament should be called as a monsoon session or a lack of monsoon session, depends upon the situation prevailing at that particular time. This time we have a discussion which is initiated to discuss about the problem arising out of a lot of downpour in some parts of the country, while others chronically suffer from lack of water, as it happens every year. So my first request would be that in all monsoon session which begins in month of July, we should have a fixed agenda for discussion, how to deal with the problem arising out of natural calamities, because every year we keep discussing it. And therefore, I really wonder whether it is really natural or it is really man-made, because natural calamities cannot just keep happening by giving notice, advance notice, that next year again I'm going to come, I'm going to recur again after year after next, and therefore we have to really think about it very seriously. Sir, we have been discussing these issues for so many years now, and there are various elements of these natural calamities. One element is this chronic problem that north and the northeast of India, and particularly the eastern part of India, suffer from excessive rains every year. As a consequence of that, there are floodings in that part of the country. Whereas the southern part of India, there are chronic districts which always suffer from lack of water. And therefore, this is a scenario in one single part of the country, which is geographically one single unity, political one country. Two sets of people live, one in excess water and therefore they suffer, and some other people who constantly suffer because there is no water. So therefore we have to really seriously think about the issue as to how we can solve this problem permanently. There is of course a vested interest in not solving the problem, because if you really compare, in last 57 years since we become independent, there are literally thousands of crores have been spent by the central government, by the state government, by the local governments on both this problem. And therefore there is always an interest to perpetuate this problem, because if there is a flood, there is a flood economy which operates, there is a drought, there are people who benefit from droughts, and therefore people only suffer, but there are some interest groups which always benefit by either of the situation. And therefore we really need to seriously think about the issue. So second element is the visible impact of natural calamity like floods and droughts. But there are certain invisibles which we cannot see it openly with naked eyes, but we are actually seeing it as a slow impact of what is happening over a period of time. Desertification, land erosion are some of these slow poisoning issues which are also part of natural calamity, which are taking shape as a result of deforestation and many other issues. So therefore, sir, I think when we discuss this natural calamity problem, we should always be conscious that there are certain problems which are recurring year after year, and therefore we should now claim responsibility for it, because they are no longer natural, they are man-made by our own inaction or actions in some ways. Sir, this time we have got now floods in some other parts which are not normally chronically suffering from floods. Maharashtra, Gujarat are not the states which year after year suffer from flood. So Konkan and Mumbai, particularly this year, are suffering from such unprecedented floods that even today nobody knows that what is the damage that is caused in Konkan. Thanks to the help from army, at least there is some respite that army is now moving in. Police force are totally helpless, they can't really cope up with the situation, and therefore today we really don't know how much is the damage caused. So I would request first of all, the defense minister is present here and on behalf of the government, to immediately assess the damage caused and actually make sure immediately, at least in people of Konkan and Mumbai also, how we can reach the relief material immediately, even today. Because there are so many people are suffering because they are not getting even food. 63% of people in Mumbai live in slums, and they really depend on their own livelihood because there is some public eatery which is available for them, and now in the absence of that there is a problem. So therefore, sir, my first request is that we should deal with this problem in a very serious manner. So what are the causes of this problem, and therefore I think we should really need to analyze it. So firstly, over a period of time, this mindless development that has taken place is really causing this problem. Sir, we are seeing now that particularly when the flood takes place, like in Mumbai, in Gujarat also we have seen in other parts of the country, the worst suffer are the poor because they live in slums, and slums are developed in such areas where probably the flood affect them the most. Probably the gutters, the nalas which actually carry the flood water out, their slums are located there because they are the only places which are available unhindered, and therefore they encroach those places. So therefore mindless development should be really the root cause of this, and we should now seriously think about doing a development or a pattern that will really take all the issues into consideration. Otherwise, year after year, this situation will keep happening. Secondly, as I said, deforestation. So the forest cover in India is now decreased to such an extent that it is causing many problems. Like, for example, when the water comes in, it comes with such ferocity because it is not able to stop, because there is no roots which actually can stop it. So therefore, soil erosion is an adjacent problem, but it is a problem. Mangroves. So we are not even given any attention to development of mangroves. So whenever there was a flood and also the tsunami hit us, then we realized the importance of mangroves, which could have saved us, and therefore the entire coastline is now vulnerable because the entire mangroves have been totally uprooted. So therefore this is another issue that we should try to take into consideration. Sir, I think rather than, because you have told me that you have limited time, I will go to the real solution, what we should really need to do. First, sir, we should do now on a national scale a land use pattern survey. We should really decide on a basis of what land should be used only for habitation, natural habitation, human habitation, and rest of the land should not be allowed for human habitation because it is vulnerable. And for that, we should use the GIS, remote sensing, and try to create this as early as possible, because otherwise this problem will keep happening year after year. Secondly, sir, as I said, we must earmark only specific areas for human habitation. Like we are seeing now in Mumbai, those people who are living there, they are worst affected. Sir, last few days, yesterday and today, I have just got a report, they are not been able to eat anything. And that is because they are located in such an area that entire house is washed away, entire slum is washed away, entire hut is washed away, and therefore nothing is left. So human habitation areas should be properly decided. And sir, many people have said, and this is the problem, the problem today is because of surface water. Sir, the water which is available on land, which is causing havoc because it is flooding, and where there is no surface water is also causing havoc. Sir, you will be surprised to know that India uses 83% of irrigation potential is used by only groundwater. So groundwater is now servicing 83% of the irrigation potential of the country. And in whole of India, the per capita storage capacity is only about 200 cubic meters. In United States, it is 5,000 cubic meters. In China, it is 1,000 cubic meter, and India it is only 200 cubic meter. As a result of which, when the monsoon fails, the entire area goes under drought, and when the flood comes, in the absence of storage, it also causes havoc. So what is really needed is creating an adequate water security. For that, storage capacity should be created, and also for the same time, we should also make sure that groundwater is not exploited in an over manner, and therefore that should be really done. Sir, when flood comes, whenever the natural calamity comes, what should be a response to that? And therefore, sir, as you have seen, one of the most important things that we should now look at in a very scientific manner, the worldwide, there is a scientific evidence available of climate change. As a result of climate change, some areas are getting more floods, some areas are getting more rain, some areas are now getting snowfall where there is never a snowfall, like UAE had never a snowfall, but this year they had a snowfall this year. So climate change is a reality. In India, we should set up a very high-powered climate change monitoring station, and that monitoring station should give a forewarning to all the states, all the areas where this is going to come. And for that, we really need to create a mathematical models, computer simulation model to forecast how the weather is changing and which part of the country are going to be affected. In fact, the forecast says that India will get more rains as a result of climate change for the next 20 years. And if that is so, we should really prepare ourselves to deal with that situation, store that water which is going to come in excess, probably use that water for a further use, and therefore this is something which really needs to be done immediately, and I think for that we need to do. So disaster management is something which is, we call it a disaster management, but I think there is a disaster in management of this disaster management. Because whenever there is a call, there is no really response that comes. So London had a very serious bomb blast just last week on the 7th of July. When it happened, within 5 minutes, the entire response of the disaster management team could be really seen and felt. Here, the disaster management is something which you have to go and find out whether the disaster management team really likes. So the amount of money that we are spending on disaster management is also waste. We really need to do something about it. And therefore, the other response that we really need to have is a disaster management to be kept in place. Otherwise, whenever there is a problem, we keep spending money, and the only demand will be now give us 1,000 crores because there is a big problem. Even that money also goes down the drain, and therefore no substantial usage really takes place. So disaster management is something which we really need to look into in a very manner, and that should be in a multi-dimensional force.
Conclude,
sir. Yes. Sir, other issue, and I think this we really need to look at it as a nation now, is that all the houses, all the property of all the citizens of the country should be insured. Because virtually not everybody gets his claim settled. Because whenever there is a relief that goes in, not everybody, the worst affected, never get the money. So if you have an insurance scheme, and those who cannot afford to pay the insurance premium, the government can pay the insurance premium, but at least if you have a compulsory insurance, everybody will get whatever is the loss that is suffered by him, he will be able to get a compensation for that. And therefore those areas which are very vulnerable, where there is likely to be more losses because those areas are going to suffer because of natural calamities, the insurance premium can be higher, but all the areas in the country should be covered with compulsory insurance, and that would be one of the best way to do it. So I appeal to the government. In fact, so far they should have come with a response that Konkan and Mumbai are the worst sufferers. How many people have died? How many people have suffered? We don't know. There is hardly any telephonic contact with Konkan region. I have not been able to talk to my constituency. So therefore my appeal would be that instantly and immediately the government should come out with what the loss, what the damage, and the immediate response should be seen, and money should be spent. Whatever amount is required to be done, that should be done. And I think the government will come and make a statement on this, if not today.
Please conclude.
Mobile phones are also not working. Therefore, I think this needs to be done. Thank you.